Red Bull's available for no one else after this event. The big question behind raising talent is, why would you want the book? Why would you care? And secondly, to answer that question, we first got to answer the question of what is talent? If you go to the dictionary, as I just did now, just to double check, the dictionary says talent is an innate ability, something that you are born with. So when you think of Michael Hall, do you think his first words was a meta question? Do you think the first thing he did was holding a frame? Or maybe he's first crawling around and then later standing and then later speaking and then later developing these skills? Do you think Roger Federer's first step was towards the net to drop a lovely volley? Or did he first have to learn to crawl, to walk, to run, to perform? Yet the way people talk about talent, it sounds like it's something you have or you don't. But I'm really curious about this because if you don't see it that early on, and later on they've got it, what happened in between? How is it that Roger Federer is now considered to be innately talented, or Michael Hall incredibly talented? Has it always just been that way? For those of you who've been in Neuro-Semantic training, it kind of does, doesn't it? Like how does he do that? How will we ever get there? And here's the challenge, is that for a lot of people, they believe talent is something that you have or you don't because of the way it's described and the way people talk about it. So the metaphor I have for talent is this. Someone who is talented is ahead of the race. These other people in the race, they're a few steps ahead. And that difference looks like talent. The second thing that a talented person does, initially, in the very, very beginning, their stride's kind of bigger. And they make more progress. It seems to be easier for them than for others. So two things talent is. First, they are ahead of the race in the beginning, ahead of the others in the beginning. The second thing, it appears they make more progress quicker. Their strides are bigger. Let's backtrack a little bit. How do we know if someone is talented? For children, how do we know? For you, how do we know that you are talented or you're not? What happens? Don't we get a bunch of people of the same group, like you in ACMC, to compare everyone versus everyone else, and the people in the best of that group are talented? Is that how it works? In school, you get a bunch of kids in the same age group, and the kids who are smartest, fastest, strongest are the talented kids. Isn't that how it works? You compare across a group. But think about this. If I'm born in January, and I'm competing with kids who are born in September, November, December, are we really comparing across a realistic group? At the age of 6, 7, 8, 9 to 10 months of growth, you've got to buy new clothes then, don't you? Those parents, grandparents in the room. It's a significant step, but now what's happening is we're identifying talent within that group. In the 1980s, a guy called Roger Barnsley, a Canadian sports psychologist, was watching Little Legs ice hockey. So Little Legs is all you see the legs sticking out, the huge ice hockey stick. There's just a cluster around whatever's happening. You might have seen that in football, other sports, where it's just madness. It's just so much fun, but no sport whatsoever. There's too much fun to be had to be having sport. Have you seen that before? And he's watching with his wife, and his wife bumped him in the ribs and said, "Hey," that's the only Canadian word that I know. "Hey." "Hey, have a look at this program, hey." And he looked over it, and what he found was the majority of the kids playing in that specific game were born in the early part of the year. And he was wondering, maybe someone's just lazy typing out the program, and they just copy and paste, copy and paste, copy and paste. And that's the reason why all the dates are similar. And so you got really curious about this idea of maybe, is there something to it? So he started an exhaustive project in ice hockey at all levels, at elite levels in Canada, to find out, is there some sort of a relationship between birth date and performance level? And after a long, long time with his wife and a colleague, they came to some startling conclusions. In Canada, the month that most elite hockey players are born in, January. The second most populous month, February. The third most populous month, March. In fact, 40% of all elite hockey players in Canada are born in the first quarter of the year. 30% in the next quarter, 20% in the quarter after, and the whole buck is born around Christmas. Only 10% of those guys made it through. So why? Because how do we identify talent? We compare ourselves to a group, and those groups are not even. So two things happen to those talented kids. First, someone says, Johnny, you've got ability. You're going to be a great ice hockey player, even though right now we can't really see what you're doing. You're the best of the bunch, you're going to make it. So Johnny takes in the frame, I'm pretty good at this. All these big people are saying so. Must be true. And the second thing that happens is that Johnny gets into a sign where he gets to train 1 or 2 hours more a week at a high level. So his stride gets bigger. And so the kids who weren't lucky enough to be born in the first part of the year, if they don't have really strong frames at home, they take on the idea that, oh, I'm not a good hockey player. I won't be able to do this. I'll never be as good as. I don't have that ability. And they lose out on the training, so not only do they stride smaller, but they take on the frame that I'm a B team player. I'm a second team player. So think about this. Has anyone in the room here had the experience of a teacher ruining a subject for them? Hate maths because Miss Blackwell, when I was 7, she said I was stupid at maths, and I believe that. She should not, right? So there's a principle in psychology called the Pygmalion effect. When you are in a position of power, your belief about those people you have power over shapes their belief. So as a parent, you have power over your children. As a teacher, the same. As a coach, the same. Your beliefs about them influences what they believe about themselves. So as a coach looking at the roster and these kids aren't that great, they are communicating to their child that you actually don't have the ability without even having to say a word. What you believe speaks so loudly, I cannot hear what you say. And think about those people who don't believe you. You can see it in the eyes. You didn't think you're going to make it. You think your plans, entrepreneurial or otherwise, just won't work out. You will never be able to do this. And they kind of have to say to your face, but even those who don't, you can read it, can't you? Children are especially good at this, aren't they? They can pick up a vibe. They get a sense of things. So Roger Barnsley wondered if this was localized to just ice hockey. In America, the cutoff date for age group baseball is the 31st of July. Does anyone want to guess the month the most American baseball players are born at a major league level? August. And I worked in the Sharks in South Africa at a professional franchise level in rugby. The season was January through April, May. We couldn't trip over a few days in January and February without finding a birthday. We actually joked with the conditioning coach that everyone's getting fat from all the cake. Because every couple of days, there was a birthday. So maybe that happens in ice hockey, maybe it happens in baseball, maybe it happens in rugby, but maybe there's some things that this rule doesn't apply to. So people talk about music being an innate gift. Like you either musical or you're not. You either got the ability or you sound like cats mating. There's a karaoke bar. I'll demonstrate cats mating for you tonight somewhere. I have that gift. I took the wrong call for that. So a guy called Gary McPherson in 1997 did a longitudinal study where you find 157 kids all over America who are just about to start the adventure of learning to play a musical instrument. And they didn't really know what instrument they were going to choose yet, but they knew they were going through the process. At age 7 or 8, he tracked them, observed them, videotaped them, took notes, interviewed them, interviewed their teachers, interviewed their parents, interviewed their parents' friends, interviewed their friends for 10 years. He wanted to find out, is there anything you could track in that period of time that would show you what was significant in developing musical talent? So 10 years of really hectic study, videotape after videotape, flying all over the countryside, killing forests with all the notes he was taking. He really went to town with this. And after that 10-year exhaustive project, at the very, very end, he came to one conclusion. The kids who are the best at music practiced the most. Welcome to the world of the incredibly obvious, as my friend Joseph Scott would say. Not a great surprise that the kids who are the best practice the most. And I'll be pretty pissed off if it was me having stayed for the amount of time, and that's all I could come up with after that kind of research. And he was pretty angry, he was pretty upset. And so he went back again and again and again and again to see, what have I missed? What is that thing that adds to the mix? Because not all kids who practice that hard were that good. There was a range. So what is the other factor that made up that range? And what he found was this.